Kenya is signing up to be one of the most painful countries for supplies on the African continent, given the time it takes to get money paid for goods or services delivered. Now, this is according to a report by Duplo, a payment platform for Africa businesses. Delayed payment to suppliers and contractors adversely affects their businesses in terms of liquidity. Now, on this special report, I tell you how the supply sector has turned into a sector in distress. My name is Brenda Zadaradido, and this is the story of broke millionaires.
Sometimes when I see NYS, nasikianga kama nitasikwa na ile ugonjwa ya kifadha.
My sister, who is also a director in the company, got hospitalized and ended up going through a surgery because of this problem.
These ones may never get paid, will not be planned for, because they flouted 1, 2, or 3 of the PFM requirements.
We must draw a line and say that beyond this line, we are not going to have a recurrence of pending bills. We are not going to execute projects without a budget.
From grace to grass, this is a common statement that many Kenyan suppliers or once thriving tenderpreneurs supplying both national and county governments with services easily identify with. Theirs are stories of pain, disappointment, suffering and sickness brought by the decision to get into the supplies industry. Some have committed suicide while others got into depression and died due to debt. I wanted to know the stories of these suppliers, and those who agreed to talk to KTN News were even afraid of appearing on camera for fear of being victimized for speaking out, but chose to speak on condition of anonymity, while some went bare knuckles and spoke their hearts out with the hope that they will be paid their dues. In 2016, when the National Youth Service put out a tender advert for the slum upgrading program, the deal looked so good and suppliers knew right then that they were headed for windfall. But years later, all their hopes have been crushed and left wiping their tears as their entire investments have had no returns. We contacted several suppliers who are owed money by the youth service, whereas most of them are still in agony chasing their money after supplying goods and services several years back. Majority of them were not ready to talk to us on camera for fear of victimization, except one, Rina Nano. Rina says she has seen it all and is now ready for anything.
They can't harm me, but you see, what they can do is that they will victimize me with my bills, they will not be touched. Let me tell you, I will be coming back to you all the time to say that I was not paid. So if you expose me, I will not enter anywhere, yes? This is Kenya. If you want to die for people, you can die for them, but they will not die for you.
She and several other suppliers were some of the lucky suppliers who got the tenders for various goods and various services from NYS. Some of the projects were conducted in Nairobi. The actual target for these projects were to improve the livelihoods of at least 1.6 million households. It was conducted in Kibra, Mathare, Korogosho and Mukuru slums. Years later, these suppliers are in agony. Following the NYS Scandal 1 and 2, all payments to suppliers were stopped. They were affected by the freeze as the youth service owes them 117 million shillings.
Those days was Mangiti. I have a bill, unpaid bill, which is verified by Muti Agency. When in Dubai came in as Director General, I had bills verified, which are not paid. 2 scandals.
As Rina walks us down the memory lane of their supply companies, bittersweet memories of what she once called a thriving company now turned into shell linger in their mind. Rina and fellow suppliers took loans with different microfinance companies and banks to finance their business with the aim making profit and later pay their dues.
Sometimes when I see NYS, nasikianga kama nitasikwa na ile ugonjwa ya kifadha. Sometimes I avoid. I really avoid seeing the gate of NYS. That is where my life was shattered and messed up. I was a very strong woman, but NYS scattered my life, messed my life and my children and my family's life.
The debt she incurred has caused her a lot of pain. All her properties have been auctioned as creditors and friends have been on her neck demanding for their dues.
I took even credits from my friends, soft loans from my friends. I can't even talk to them. I'm so ashamed. Because actually you tell somebody tomorrow you're being paid, you end up having very many enemies. Even you don't have friends. You just get out of that circle because even you have no circle of friends.
Her friendships and family have also been broken.
In fact, I don't call up some of my friends because when you're calling somebody, maybe you think that you want to borrow from her or from him. So I keep off.
After years of delays of payment, a multi-agency team comprising of officials from National Treasury, Directorate of Criminal Investigations, Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, and Attorney General's Office were given the task of verifying all the pending bills. The committee verified all the pending bills, which amounted to 15.5 billion shillings, out of which in May 22nd, former President Uhuru Kenyatta's cabinet back then approved 5.4 billion shillings to be paid to suppliers. According to a circular that was dispatched, the payment was supposed to address the plight of micro, small and medium enterprises that made supplies to NYS.
I was genuine, we were verified, and everything was okay. But then, since we even went to verified by multi-agency, even up to now, I've not gotten anything. The story is, we have gotten our money, we have no money for historical pending bills. In fact, they baptized us historical pending bills.
As we said, prioritization and fidelity to the law. You should not start a new project when you've got another project that has stalled for lack of funding.
During the supplementary budget 1, NYS was allocated 1 billion shillings to pay pending bills and an additional 2 billion shillings in the financial year 2022-2023, leaving a budget of 2.3 billion shillings.
Pay and settle all pending bills that do not have audit queries on or before the end of the current financial year, 30th June 2019.
I wonder how they do the contract with other people when they know that they owe others. I really wonder. For me, I am not saying that they don't know their work. They know their work. But I really wonder how you go and buy something else, but you have not settled the other.
We know of cases where the leadership divert funds that are meant to pay pending bills into other uses. So this is happening a lot, and it's got to do with the integrity as well, because you find that there are suppliers who will perhaps go and use underhand ways of getting advantage, and they get paid and leave all the bills.
Despite this allocation and the pending bills being verified, to date, suppliers claim they have not received any payment. They have knocked on NYS doors and some government officers seeking intervention to unlock their payment without success.
Some of them, okay, they are learning, they know the PL, they'll tell you that you'll be paid. But when? We don't know until you are given money. I want a woman like me. I went in that office and sat down and started crying. Crying to the CFO's office, crying I want to see the Director General. Literally, no, you can't see him, you can't see me, go to the finance officer. Finance officer is so aeropress, I don't have money to pay you.
Peter Njoroge, not his real name, is another supplier who has been in business for more than 10 years. He's among suppliers who are yet to receive a penny from Kiambu County after delivering goods and services.
I had no other money, so it all went there. I had the LPU, first of all. I had all the deliveries. I had all the job cards, everything, and I had completed all the work. So the money, when it got stuck there, it really affected my financial status.
Pending bills should not arise where there's a budget and where there's a procurement plan and where monies have been sent to counties. And yet you still find some counties talking of billions. Counties like Wajir, counties like Kiambu, Nairobi, and a few others.
If they made commitments and placed LPOs expecting certain monies to come in, and they don't come in by the end of the period, then we are going to end up with pending bills.
Creditors have been on his neck, while payment for the contract he had executed for Kiambu County is yet to be settled.
I was auctioned with some of my properties that I had, and even up now I'm having some challenges whereby I'm trying to plead with some of the people who I've borrowed from to bear with me.
At a meeting with the county leadership, they were told about scrutiny of all supplies that were being conducted by a verification team.
At the time, he really mentioned something, and he said most of our bills have been inflated.
If a job was done, it was done. If it wasn't done, 5 years down the line, there is no business keeping that in your books and reflecting it as a liability on the county.
At Green Park Terminus, Nairobi County, I meet another supplier, George Yogo. His entire investments at this terminus lies idle and without payment.
We've worked on this terminal from inception. Every structure standing in this facility was built by Fairton. We worked, delivered in 3 months. We were here with the president almost every now and then. This project was running 24 hours.
But just how did Fairton win the contract of this terminus, which costed 98 million shillings?
We were finalizing a project in railways for the government when I was approached by one Peter Kariuki. So he asked if, as an extension of the project we were running for railways, we could come and do this project. We had a meeting in KICC and they told me that there is an order, an executive order by the president for immediate relocation of the railways terminal to this place. And they were asking me to move in and undertake the project on an executive order. But I told them I would not move in with a word of mouth. So Ocheng asked me over to his office and he did a letter. He gave me an award letter.
Through this letter with reference number NMS/DT and PW/contract 2 NMS, Fairton Company received a contract with clear instructions of what was to be done and the timelines. This document under proposed renovation of Green Park Bill number 1 illustrated a breakdown of how the police post extension and other amenities at Bark Terminus would be constructed, amount to 53,600 shillings. While this was to take place under Bill number 2, construction was going on for general offices, toilet renovation and walling, as well as construction of shades under Bill number 3, which amounted to 49,226,777 shillings and 26 cents. Owing to the fact that NMS had a mainframe contract with CRBC for several contracts, they were also given a letter giving reasons for the variation. The award of contract gave reasons as to why the presidential executive order necessitated a variation of Fairton contract with the China Roads and Bridges Corporation, which had the initial contract of carrying out some government projects.
One of the days I went to them, I said I need to finalize with the documentation because we are almost done with the project to facilitate the payments. Then I'm given a copy of a letter that apparently was sent to China Roads and Bridges. In our contract award letter, they awarded as a contract, they said it was a variation of the CRBC project. In other words, CRBC was meant to do this, but they varied it because they had too much to do, so they needed an independent contractor to come and do it.
The back and forth between Fairton Company and NMS continued for some time, almost threatening the signing of the agreement and a payment.
Again, they give us a letter that is taking this project back to CRBC. They told us that they had a problem with CRBC on taking this project, so they are working on the payment. They called CRBC. CRBC said in their presence that you only asked us to be a conduit for the payment of this project. So we are waiting for you to give us money to pay them. Otherwise, you're the ones to pay them. NMS closed and went. We followed with them. They said the state will still pay us because the office was domiciled in the office of the president, so it was a state function, and therefore the state would still pay us. No payment has been forthcoming.
3 years later, Fairton Company is yet to be paid its dues for the services it rendered, with promises of being paid never materializing, even after the Green Park Terminus was launched, despite threats by the contractor to stop the launch. As the circus of which government office is supposed to pay Fairton Company continues, attempts to get to the office of the president, where the executive order came from in 2020, has also proved futile.
I spoke to one officer that I may not mention the name, but in his own words, he said this project had been moved from the county to the state, and then the state gave it to Kura for Kura to pay. So it is no longer again Sakaja to pay, it is no longer Office of the President to pay, it is now Kura to make the payment. On reaching Kura, they are also saying they have not got an instruction from the Office of the President as to whether to pay the project. So you are caught in between the place.
If there are bills that are legitimate and the paperwork is there and there's evidence that the jobs had been done, let us settle them. If there are those that are suspicious, let us just take a position, close our eyes, forget about them, and if these service providers decide to go to court, let's deal with the matters in court.
We need to have personal responsibility. That if you ask me to deliver a certain item and I do it, then you should be personally liable to ensure that I actually get paid the money.
As the stalemate in payment continues, the suppliers have been forced to reduce their workforce and their properties auctioned.
I have some 2 Range Rovers that are meant to be auctioned now because of this project. We have a few other properties that are meant to be auctioned.
Okay, the people who I was working with, I had to let them off, because I could not sustain them. The rent, the office that I was in, I had to do away with it because I could not continue paying, and I could not even afford to be paying. So I'm just operating from the house.
My house was open. I was staying, I don't want to say because I was staying in these areas. But now, where I scoot right now, I stay in a house where there is no running water, there is no toilet. When I wake up in the morning, actually, I don't want to say that I don't have something to eat, because that one, to me, that one is simple. Because even if I come to you and give me a packet of hunger, but what about my debt? What about the school fees? What about my children who want care? I'm a window.
The Kenya Revenue Authority is also on their neck for failing to pay 30% of the business tax.
KRA, even I don't know how much I owe them. Because actually right now they are waiting. They are waiting to, if you are paid, they will take the money, studio, or you pay them. I owe KRA, I can't pay them. Because actually even what I was paid, they pay like this, then the bank take, because you have the loan in the bank.
Please pay us. Pay me my bills so that I can also be able to clear the suppliers who had supplied me the materials, and also to pay the bank who are on my case.
When you pay suppliers, that money circulates within the local economy and creates more opportunities.
As they continue waiting for their payments, praying for any flicker or light at the end of the tunnel, this whole situation is now affecting their health, putting their lives on the line.
My sister, who is also a director in the company, got hospitalized and ended up going through a surgery because of this process.
High blood pressure, antidepressants, what not, or name all those things. Because when we wake up in the morning, uko unaumwa na hapa, unaumwa na kidole. What do you call that? Unaumwa na kifua, unaumwa na hapa, unaumwa na hapa.
With pending bills being a national problem, which cuts across both levels of national and county governments, some suppliers have ended up taking their own lives due to lack of payments. 24th August 2021, residents of Nyandarua County woke up to this scene. Late Hannah Nyambura Ndurige chained herself to Nyandarua County gate over unpaid construction work of street pavement in Olkalau town in 2019 at a cost of 71 million shillings. Apart from the payment, Nyambura was given the contract of laying a 2-kilometer cabro footpath from Olkalau town to the county headquarters. Sadly, 17 February 2023, Nyambura died without enjoying the fruit of her labor. However, the county government says the late Nyambura was not owed any money at the time of her death. Hassan, who did not want to be interviewed on camera, still claims her mother died of pressure and stress from auctioneers due to debts she incurred.
The pending bill is a national problem. It cuts across both levels of government, at national level and at county levels. And it's an enormous problem, a serious problem.
Despite having genuine documents to transact business with the national and county governments, during transition, successors fear taking over pending bills that were fraudulently done, which is an issue of mistrust. Wajir Deputy Governor Hamed Mohamed says verification of pending bills is necessary as governors do not want to pay bills that are questionable.
There are also fake, fictitious and fallacious bills. These bills also contain an enormous amount of fake phantom bills. So verifying them also will take quite some bit of work.
We are quick to say that they are fake bills, but has someone been taken to court and charged with an offense of providing wrong information or making an improper claim on a county or a national government? We are not seeing that.
The Office of the Controller of Budget monitors the use of public funds every year and issues a report to Parliament on how the funds have been utilized. According to the Controller of Budget, Margaret Nyakango, the issue of diverting funds meant for projects to other usage has been a major reason as to why both levels of government and parastatals have pending bills mounting to billions of shillings.
Some political interference, some poor budgetary control, and some delayed funds, all coming together to contribute to some of the figures that we see.
Unfortunately, the officers in the counties have found ways of beating the system. They will make all the proper and right requisitions to the Office of Control of Budget. And then once the funds are released to them, because they have the last transaction responsibility, they decide to misallocate or allocate the monies to their own pet projects.
If we have a crisis, then money is reallocated. Or if we have an issue where maybe a road was not finished on time and then that money cannot be held, it will have to be turned back, then comes back as a pending bill. That is normally the biggest problem.
It has been a cycle of different regimes trying to look into the pending bills saga, even as investors continue to languish in debts and poverty. On June 27th, President William Ruto formed another multi-stakeholders committee to verify all pending bills, noting that pending bills remain a sticky issue. The committee will consist of State Departments of Roads, State Department of Public Works, State Department of Housing and Urban Development, Public Procurement Regulatory Authority, Attorney General, Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, Law Society of Kenya, Institute of Engineers of Kenya, Institute of Certified Public Accounts of Kenya. The committee's mandate will be to carry out a thorough analysis of pending bills that have accumulated from June 2005 to June 2022, with a view of advising the government on resolutions of the same and also propose a mechanism to stop future pending bills.
We have to check each and every pending bill because, this country, you may get people who are going to, who will just present fictitious invoices, present fictitious LSOs and LPOs.
The national government pending bills since June 2005 and June 2022 stand at 481 billion shillings, while counties owe suppliers 159.9 billion shillings. However, according to the Controller of Budget's report, which was released last month, the pending bills stand at 727.7 billion shillings. This is an increment from what the country had as of June 30th, 2022, which was 685.6 billion shillings. Government ministries have a pending bill totaling to 123.9 billion shillings, while state corporations have pending bills totaling to 443.6 billion shillings, while county governments have pending bills totaling to 160.2 billion shillings.
At the end of the financial year, the government paid all the monies for county governments because the accumulation of pending bills is not only to that person, but to the economy. Because if we hold the money, the economy suffers because the businessmen, the contractors, and everybody else who wants to run their own errands will be stuck.
The committee is expected to report its interim report to Treasury Cabinet Secretary Professor Njogona Ndungu. Upon verification, with the government expected to honor the obligation in question. According to the government, the move is aimed at establishing the integrity of all pending bills and cushion suppliers against liquidity inadequacies. With the committee expected to table its report within a year, suppliers say their lives have lost meaning.
In fact, I started supplying, like NYS, I was in early 40s. But now, I'm in the 50s, and I won't go to 60 even without getting this money, and even 70. But even look at me, you see as if I'm 70 because of the problems. I'm under medication.
These service providers, they don't care who the governor is. What they care about is their business. What they care about is the services that they are providing, and they need to be paid. We have seen serious cases of trauma. We have seen people getting auctioned. We have seen businesses collapsing simply because of the delays in payment. And those delays in payment also make government services very expensive.
According to Exploring the State of B2B Payment in Africa, Kenyan companies are on the spotlight for taking more than a day to process invoices. The report shows that only 19.7% of Kenyan companies process invoices within 24 hours, with 57% of them taking up to a week to prepare them for payment. Similarly, only 69% of payments made to businesses in Kenya are received within a week of sending out an invoice, whereas 21.5% of these are settled within a day. According to economic pundits, corruption has cropped in the supply sector because the country's processes are inefficient, creating room for kickbacks whenever a supplier is demanding for payment for services rendered.
So the reason why I'm paying you to help me get processed is because the right process is not there. And that human you're talking to is the process. So we need to get to a point where we separate a person from the process. So whether they are there or not, the process will still work.
The Controller of Budget argues that some counties are recording high pending bills due to delays by Treasury in disbursing funds to spending entities on a timely basis lead to outstanding payment at the end of financial year, diversion of funds meant to pay pending bills to other activities or suppliers, failure by spending entities to align the procurement plans to cash flow plans and approved budgets, delays in approving of supplementary budgets and failure to adopt prior year pending bills in the revised budget lead to settlement delays and IFMIS-related challenges where the system is also frequently closed to prevent procurement.
The on-source revenues are exaggerated just to pass a higher budget. So what we've been doing, and the advice my office has been giving to all these counties, is for them to be more realistic with the figures of on-source revenues.
As of March 2023, Nairobi County had the biggest share of pending bills at 100.3 billion shillings. Other counties with high pending bills are Wajir at 5.5 billion shillings, Kiambu at 4.9 billion shillings, Mombasa at 4.9 billion shillings, Machakos at 2.8 billion shillings, and Moranga at 2.7 billion shillings. Underperformance in own-source revenue has further led to budget deficit and unfunded commitments leading to pending bills.
Nairobi, every year without fail, including this particular one, they'll budget to collect about 19 to 20 billion. But the highest they have ever touched is 10.2 billion, which they did last year. That means that they manufacture pending bills of almost 10 billion. Yeah? That shortfall is automatically pending bills, because it means that they have been spending or making commitments based on the total revenue, which they never achieve.
Years of business that never materialized, supplies and services that were delivered, but no money hit bank accounts, are the stories of Kenyans who did business with the government but were left high and dry. With the multi-agency committee formed by President William Ruto to look into the pending bills with a view of finding a solution, affected Kenyans can only hope that their demands will be met and finally manage to smile. But until then, hope remains a constant. For KTN News, I am Brenda Zeda Radido.